Okay, I have recorded this so many times now that whatever mistakes I'm gonna be in here, I'm just gonna include. This is the last time I'm gonna do this. This is kind of an overview of Arma-webui, which is a library I've made to render HTML, CSS, and JS and control. There's a bridge that takes that code and puts it in SQF so you can actually control your server from it. And just kind of like a before and after. This is your typical Arma UI. Um, if you've written Arma UI, you know the deal. Every dialog is a config class, coordinates are a fraction of the screen. With a safe zone offset, there's no flex box or grid or wrapping text. If you want like a rounded or chamfered corner, that's a texture. Uh, if you want icons, that's a texture. If you want a gradient, it's all a texture. Well, no more. This is not a mod. It's not an external overlay. It's a web page running inside of the game and actually talking to the mission. I'll give you an example here. So that's going to the database, and this fake player, if they ever come online, will get this message when they log in. If you look at the market, this reflects current in-game prices of everything. It's actually talking to the server and talking to the database. So I'll give you an example of like the code, right? This is the current smartphone you saw at the very start. Right now, the new smartphone is just launched from the old smartphone while I'm doing some wiring on my end. It's not something you have to deal with if you do this from the ground up. So this is the current smartphone. Um, Specifically, kind of like the grid and where the buttons and stuff are. And this is the new one. The only thing other than this that's involved are HTML files. Um, Arma-webui basically. Okay, so in Arma 3.20 they added a browser control. It's CT_web browser. It will render a local page on its own. That kind of gets you a picture. There's no way to get data in, no way to get data or like clicks back out. Arma-webui, it makes that two-way. It's 15 SQF functions in one JS file, about 480 lines in total, and then you just write your UI in HTML and CSS like it's, 2010. There are basically four calls. This is the entire surface. So you've got push, ask, handle, call. That's it. So we'll go ahead and go back to the actual phone. A couple of the things that are really nice about this is one, you can do dynamically scaling UI based on resolution, as well as you can let the players set it themselves, which is kind of what I'm doing here. Animations are extremely cheap on this. Granted, this has only been tested on one machine, but this is a literal tablet, and I saw a delta of like 1 to 1.1 FPS when I was doing A/B testing on this. Let me go back here. So, the old way of doing a live wallpaper was essentially you bake 16 PAA frames and you script them in a loop. It's very big, very expensive. Performance-wise, it's not expensive at all, but file size-wise, it's huge. Well, this is like 2.2 kilobytes, and it looks much cleaner, much nicer. Doesn't tank your frames. Doesn't do anything crazy like that. I mean, it's not 100% free. As far as I can measure, again, this has all been tested on one system, one mission, right? So I haven't fully tested this. So every icon you see is an inline SVG. There's 0 PAA files for this entire UI. It's all contained in one HTML file. So far it's 2,400 lines covering 7 screens. You've got market. You've got... I gotta stop doing that. I gotta start using the back button. Never claimed to be a good UI designer. Just claimed to be a mediocre coder. You got your gang screen here. got your gang perks, which is throwing an error, because of course it is. That's not related to the library. This is related to my UI and my mediocre coding. You got your... Not that falls back right now. Like I said, this is going to be very raw. I've like recorded this 7 times trying to make it all professional. I finally just given up. Talents is one that's been done. So you can do like dynamic talent trees instead of just like a list, like the way it used to be. And all of this is like... It's 1,024 times smaller than the equivalent like PAA and SQF coding to make this work. Let me see here. I got some more notes. So the way the bridge actually works essentially is you're injecting a JavaScript string. It's getting serialized with to JSON, which arrives as a real JavaScript object. The fun one is like the page to game. There's no callback. What there is a JS dialog event. The control fires it, and when the page calls, like for example, alert. So the page calls alert with a JSON payload. SQF catches it and answers by injecting JavaScript back. You're basically tunneling an RPC layer through alert. It works, and it's fast enough, about 15 to 20 milliseconds round trip. And once it's wrapped, you just don't have to think about it anymore. This is the part of the script where it told me to make a diagram, but I'm way too lazy to do that, and it would look like MS Paint. So, as I was working on this, I ran into some weirdness, which thankfully I've worked around, and actually the latest Arma update fixed one of these weirdnesses. So for text entry, any non-ASCII characters would just make the whole thing bug out. So how I worked around that was I was originally bringing up like the standard Arma text input dialog whenever dialog was needed. Thankfully, as of the new update that literally dropped yesterday, I don't have to do that anymore. There's basically 2 preconditions. The page has to be served from a path listed in allowed HTML load URIs in your description.ext. And you have to attach a JS dialog handler before the page loads. If you miss either one, you get a page. It renders perfectly. It just can't talk. There's no error, no warning. There's nothing in the RPT. Logging that has been kind of my albatross. I've been trying to come up with a way to log when that happens. I've done so essentially through the JS dialog. So it should show an error. I wish I could like force it to break, but I can't do that easily. So one of the things that got me, and this is an edge case, this is more related to my system than anything. Animations ran at 1 frame per second. I thought it was the control. I thought maybe it was the Chromium background throttling. I wrote 3 different diagnostic harnesses to try and like figure this out. The frames are delivered dirty driven, so nothing changes, nothing's sent, which is correct. And that's why static screens are free, but mine wouldn't animate. Turns out, in order to use this, and this is not a documented thing at all, it relies on the game overlay renderer in Steam. So I was starting the game from a shell script, because I use Linux, instead of through Steam, for a couple of reasons. It just makes certain things easier for me. If you do that, there's no Steam overlay, there's no game overlay renderer, and the browser control just doesn't get frames. If you launch through Steam, you get 60 FPS on a GIF, 60 FPS on request to animation frame, same build, same page. I was thinking I was chasing dragons with that, wasted 2 days. So the browser control on screen measured minus 1.1 FPS. It's not free, but it's not scary. Page still costs essentially nothing. It stops sending frames. The full screen animation dirties everything. Every frame. That's like the bill. a mitigation for that I've worked on is if someone has like a bad computer that's somehow worse than mine, and because I can't test across a variety of hardware for this, but if someone has a computer that's worse than mine, what you can do is essentially pause the animation so that it only plays on the home screen, and then when you go to a different screen it pauses it. I don't know if that's even necessarily needed. It's just something that I have done for like a just in case thing. Because again, I've only tested this on one system. I've only got one system to test it on. Feedback on this, if you try it out, would be amazing. I'd very much appreciate it. If you're building anything list heavy, text heavy, so like your inventory, your shops, your admin panels, your phones, you should use this. Like, I'm not trying to be like braggadocious or whatever, but this is the way. It's so much lighter. It's not even close. It's so much easier, and there's virtually no drawbacks to doing it this way. Other than, it requires a library, but boohoo, it's code. It uses nothing. The limitations of this so far that I've found are if you need to overlay the world, or like you want it in the main menu, or you're worried about players on extremely old hardware, test first, because I have not tested those scenarios. I will get around to testing world overlays because I actually have a heads-up display that I'm working on that's using this. I've licensed this in MIT. It's not tied to my mission. The phone I showed you lives in a different repo and just imports this as a folder, essentially, the library. But I will add the link below. And the findings doc is the useful part. Basically every wrong answer I had is there next to the correct ones as I was figuring this out. But I hope this is useful to you guys, and I hope to see some really neat stuff done with it. And thanks for still playing Arma 3. What is this, 14, 15-year-old game at this point? And thanks to Arma 3 for still updating it. Granted, they should have given us CT web browser back in 2014, but it's cool. A lot of this wouldn't be possible like pre-2023, but it is now, and that's the important part, and I'm happy. So yeah, hopefully that I did a good enough job of explaining it. Hopefully I wasn't too annoying or scatterbrained, but there you go. Enjoy.